Hello, this is Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm bringing you another Global Monthly video hop. So this month's theme is Sale-A-Bration. So myself and other demonstrators from around the world will be showing you different projects you can make with Sale-A-Bration items. Those are things you get for free for purchasing a certain amount of products from Stampin' Up! During Sale-A-Bration time. So at the moment, Sale-A-Bration is running from January through February. And there's an extra little brochure you can get to choose different products from that you get for free. So here's the Sale-A-Bration brochure, and in New Zealand it's January 4th to February 28th. And when you purchase a certain amount, so it depends on what country you're in, you get to choose something for free. So what I'm going to show you how to use with my project this month is the, let me find it, the Awesome Otters set, as well as the Simply Marbleous Designer Series paper. So I'm going to show you some designs to make with that. And this is the one we're going to do today. So this is a fun card to make with the paper, and I'm going to show you one technique to change up the paper a bit, as well as with a bit of vellum and the cute little otters. And I'm going to do something slightly different. Quite often I do that after I make my sample card. I show you very similar but different colors, so you can choose which you prefer. So let's get started. So this is the otter set that you can get for free during Sale-A-Bration time. I'm going to use 4 of the stamps. I'm going to use all 3 of the cute little otters and the You Are Utterly Awesome stamp. You can also do a little birthday hat or say it's birthday time if you want. So it's a cling stamp, and which is our old red rubber. And then the other thing is the Designer Series paper comes in a nice pack, 6 by 6 inch size. You get 48 sheets in there, 6 different colors, 8 of each, and they're double-sided. So these are the ones that you get. And so one side sort of looks like marbling, and the other side kind of reminds me when I was a kid, we used to put paint in water and swirl it around and then put our paper down to get this kind of a design. So the colors here, you've got your Balmy Blue and Misty Moonlight. Oh, no, actually that's Pool Party and Misty Moonlight, sorry. This one here is Balmy Blue and Coastal Cabana. Then we have our Flirty Flamingo. I think that's just on its own. Then there's a So Saffron and Bumblebee, I believe. Oh, the Flirty Flamingo has Blushing Bride in it. And then there is Highland Heather and Gorgeous Grape. So you get the, and then finally we have Basic Gray and Basic White, obviously. So the card I'm going to do, this sample card here was with Pacific Point, which isn't one of the colors there. And so if you have a look, the color of my paper doesn't match any of those colors. So I'm going to show you how to get a different color paper if you want something, if you want to use a different background and you don't have the color here. So what you do is you start with your basic gray piece, and my card is actually going to be Bermuda Bay. So the pieces that you're going to need for this, the supplies you'll need, is you'll need your 6 by 6 piece of basic gray from the DSP. Then you want your card base, so wherever you are, whatever your card base is. Here in New Zealand, we use A4 and cut it in half long ways, and then scored at 10.5 centimeters in the center. And then I cut a piece off one side, and that piece I cut is about 5.2 centimeters, so it's exactly half of one of these, and I'm going to be using that over on this side here. And then you need a piece of basic white for the inside, so I cut that just slightly smaller than the inside, so it turns out to be 10 centimeters by 14.3 centimeters. And you need a piece of vellum, and I cut the vellum the same size as the basic white, so that's 10 centimeters by 14.3. So those are the supplies, as well as your ink and the dies. I'm going to be using the round die here, which is from the Picture This Dies, as well as the splatter embossing folder, which comes from the Stripes and Splatter folder. I will list all the products used in the description of this video. I will also have links to the other demonstrators that are participating in this month's Global Monthly Video Hop, so you can click on those links and go have a look at other demonstrators' projects using Saleabration items. You'll probably be seeing a lot of different designs with Otters because they are just so cute, and everybody wants that as their free item. So we're going to start out, and we're going to change this gray into the color we want. So I'm using Bermuda Bay, and I'm using a blending brush. Because I'm going to be blending, I'm just going to put scrap paper underneath to catch, because I'm going to be rubbing ink everywhere. So if you haven't used our blending brushes, they're fabulous. They basically replaced our sponges. You could use sponge daubers, but what I find quite often with the daubers is you end up with a lot of ink in spots that you don't really want them, and the blending brush makes it much easier. As well as the name implies, you can put one color and then use a different brush and do another color and blend different colors throughout. You get 3 blending brushes when you order them. So first, I just rub circular to get a bit of ink on there. Now it might not look like there's a lot of ink, and a lot of people will just do it until it's saturated in ink, but there is, and you can tap it off on your scrap paper to see. And it's best to come in from the edge, because that way you don't get too hard color on there, as well as you don't get a big splotch where you don't want. So just rub it around a bit there, tap a bit off, and come in from the edge. Now you might be wondering, why am I doing the whole page when I've only got a small piece on my actual card? But this other part that we're not using is going to have the holes cut out, so we want all the same color throughout. So you go ahead and just blend it up till you get the color you want. Now you could do it on this side, and I'll do a bit there so you can see it, but I found with the gray it's too dark, and it just doesn't give you the same look. So it depends on whether you want that kind of a swirling water or if you want this type. So basically I'm trying to make it look like water, but this one, it's kind of greeny blue water, and the other one was more blue. So you want to do this first because you want to give it some time to dry, because I will be using some heat embossing on it. And when you use the Versamark ink, if the background paper is still a bit damp, when you put the powder on, it might stick to other places that you don't want it to stick. So I just come in and I just rub a bit and just tap. Once you use these brushes, you get a bit used to how they work and how to get the ink off. So it might not look like there's much ink on there, but there still is. And I just have the habit of just giving it one little tap before I go over the center. So you can just blend. It's better to go on light and then add more color later on. And I think that might be good enough. Give me kind of a greeny, watery look. Now, just depends on where the otters are living, whether they've got blue ocean or more of a greeny ocean. Okay, so that I can just rinse off in the sink and clean it off, and most of the ink will come away. Any ink that doesn't come away will just be stained on there. So this is the one I use for the blue, and so that's not coming off because that's dried, but it won't come off on your ink pad later on, so I can just rinse that later when I want. So there's the look, and if you want to see the contrast, I'll show you. That's what we started with, and that's what we've ended up with. So you can get a marbled effect with different colors. Sorry about the lighting. We finally got rain, which I'm very happy for because I'm on tank water and I need the water in the tank, but it makes it for a dark room when I'm trying to do the video. I do have the lights on, but it's not that obvious. Okay, so I'll take that away, and that's what we got there. So we want one piece will be on this side, so that piece I need to be slightly smaller than here. So I'm going to do the width at 14.3, the length at 14.3, and the width I'm going to do at 5 centimeters. So I'm going to cut a strip off there, and I'm going to stamp an otter on there. So I want to do one that's got enough space where the otter's not going to have too much dark behind him. So I think I'll cut that. So if you color it first, then you got it nicely blended together. You could cut it and then color it later, but it's easier to do it all in one go. So I'm going to cut this at 5 centimeters. And then, so that'll fit nicely there. I'm just going to have the edge on this side, but I want to have an edge top and bottom. So I'll cut it at 143. That's 143 millimeters or 14.3 centimeters. And that will be put on there. Okay. But I'm going to stamp my otter on there. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to die cut this section to get me my circles. So the circles come from this die set here. This is called the Picture This dies. So there's one set that gives you rectangles and another that gives you circles. And I'm not going to throw away what I cut out. I just want the circles for this project, but I'll keep the background because I can use that for another project. So with my sample one, that's what I did there. So I had colored it and then did the otters inside, and as well as in the catalog it shows that. So that's the piece that'll be left over, and don't throw that out. Keep that for another project. So I will die cut that out, and then while I'm away die cutting, the other thing is I just want to have in there as much in the big white circles of not dark, because I will be stamping on those. So again, I just need to position it. See that one, it'll be too dark. So if I do it this way, I can have light areas to do my stamping on. So I will die cut that, and while I'm doing that, I'm also going to emboss the vellum. So this piece of vellum is wider than the embossing folder. These are these mini embossing folders, but that's fine because you're only going to see a little strip of it. But before I go to emboss it, I want to put color on the embossing folder. Now, if you haven't tried this before, you can color your embossing folders. And depending on which side you color, it gets you a different effect. So with the embossing folders where it says Stampin' Up, that side is going to press down, and the side that has the maker's mark on the back is going to be pressed into. So this is going to emboss this side, and that's going to deboss, which is going the other direction. So if you want to put color on there, you need to be aware of where you want the color to show up. So for my embossing folder, I want the splats, the big spots, to be clear and look like there's water between that. So to get that effect, I'm going to put ink on the front part where it says Stampin' Up. If I put the ink on the back part there, then those watermarks, what's white on this part or see-through, that would be colored, and the parts not colored in would be clear. So when you're doing it, you need to be aware of that, or just do trial and error. So the front part with Stampin' Up, I am going to put the ink on, and you can rub it or you can just press it, and you'll see also where the ink is showing up compared to the other parts. Let me get my scrap paper out. Probably be easier for you to see there. So just pressing the ink down. It's really good if you got a wet ink pad. Now some of it went into where some of the splotches are, but that doesn't really matter. I could wipe them out. See, there's a bit of ink in there. I could wipe those out before I press it, but I don't really mind. So then with your vellum, just pop it in up the edge. Don't go over the edge because you'll end up having clear there. So you want it within all the splotchy area. And then this piece, as I said, it's too long. But that's okay. You're going to see why that part not being inked is good. And then you press it over, and you don't want to move it again. And I'm going to run this through as is, and you're going to see the effect it gives you on the vellum. Okay, so there we go. I've die cut that, and as I said, I just want the circles out of here. But this piece, don't throw it away. Use it in another project later. So could even turn it over and use that side, but see, I did a bit of, showed you some blue there, so that's good for another project. And this is the embossed piece. There you go. Okay. Now you can take that and just rinse it through your sink, and it'll come out clean as. So you don't have to worry that's not going to stain on there. But this has still got some ink on it, so it's good to try to soak up some of that ink off on paper, or if you have a paper towel, you could do that as well, because otherwise you're going to end up getting ink everywhere. So you want that to get cleaned up a bit. And I might get a little paper towel to help soak up any excess. So just bear with. So even though that looks like I've taken a lot of ink off, probably haven't. So just gently press over it with a piece of towel. And that's good. And I'm just going to press down areas that look like it might still be a bit wet. Now you might think, why don't I just use my heat tool? Only trouble with that is you might warp or even burn your vellum. You can use the heat tool on vellum, like if you've embossed on vellum, you know, did embossing powder on vellum, but you do run the risk of getting it to curl or change its shape, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to press over it so I don't end up with extra ink somewhere else on my project that I don't want. But see there, I got some ink where the splotches are, but that's okay. It just gives it a bit of character, as well as the fact that it's a handmade project. So it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be different every time. So if you make several of these cards, every one's going to be slightly different depending on how the ink has come through. Okay, I think that's, let me find a white area and see if I can. Okay, I think I got all this extra ink off. And now I can proceed. Okay, so that piece there is going to be stuck to here. Now you see a lot of it we're not going to see because it's going to be underneath that piece. So I'm actually going to cut off a strip on this side. I'm going to cut off about, what did I cut off before? About 1/2 inch, 1.25 centimeters. So about 1/2 inch. I'm going to just take that off this side here. And I'm going to use that to decorate the inside of the card because we don't need that. So inside of the card, hoping I don't have ink all over myself, I'm going to put some double-sided tape, tear and tape on there. Now it doesn't, normally you don't put tear and tape on the back of your vellum because it can be, you can see through it, but because this is going to be totally covered with tear and tape, it's not going to be that noticeable, as well as the fact that we have the color there. So it's not quite wide enough for 2 strips of tear and tape, so what I'm going to do is I put 1 strip on and pull it off, and then I'm going to put the other strip on the other side, so it's going to be nice and firm in there. So this way one overlaps on the other, if I can do it straight. Note to self, don't stick your fingers in the sticky. There we go. So that's the other side. So both sides have tear and tape. And now I'm going to put this down one of the sides. Try to make it straight. There we go. There we go. So that's on one of the sides. Now that's going to be stuck inside. And so that just gives you a little pop of color when you open the card. So again, I could just use glue, but I just prefer to do tear and tape. And for the inside of the card, I don't go crazy putting it on all 4 sides because it just needs to be held in place. Not a lot going on top. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to do the tab thing where I pull up a corner on each side. So when I place it, if it doesn't place straight, which I'm very good at doing that, I can readjust it easily because it's only going to be stuck down in 2 areas. So what you do is you arrange the corners that you know have been unstuck, and then you can just slide it. If it didn't fit right, I could have just readjusted that. Just tuck that. So that's the inside of my card. And now for the outside. So this piece, I want it to come right up to the edge so you see the white behind it. Okay? And so there's quite a lot of white there, but we'll be covering some of that up later on. So you want it to go right up to the edge. So the easiest thing to do is to put my tape on this back part. And that's why it didn't really matter that the piece was bigger, because that left us room to tape it down, to adhere it down inside the card, as well as gives us an area to that doesn't have any ink on it. And also, because this hasn't been embossed, it's nice and flat, where the other parts are not flat, so it might not stick very well if you've got some raised parts. So I'm going to start at that top corner. I'm not actually pressing down on the sticky part yet. I'm just, let me move this into the camera a bit better. So I'm just looking at that corner up the top and the corner down here to make sure it's covering the white completely. And then I'm going to press that down. So that's essentially the opening of the card. So now I'm going to stick this piece to cover up that messy part and to give it a bit of firmness. So I'm using tear and tape here. You might think, oh, just use glue. But because it's vellum, glue doesn't stick as well as tape does. And if I were to put glue on the edge of this and then push it down and it oozed out on the vellum, it would then leave marks and be noticeable. So when you're working with vellum, there's a few other ways to do things that you might not be used to. Now I am putting the tape around all the edges because I do want it to secure the bottom. So, because at this point this is only held on by one little piece of tape. This will secure it in place nicely. And again, I do my tabs just in case I do something crooked. I tend to do that quite often, especially on camera when you're hurrying. Other things, I stamp crooked all the time. That's why if you stamp, you should stamp first, but I didn't stamp on the inside. So this one, we want to make sure it's right up to this outside edge, so I want it to be straight up to that edge and the top. So I'm just trying to make sure it's right up to that edge. And secure it down. Once you're happy with the look, you just pull your tab up. And so we pull our tab, and pull the tab, and pull the tab. There we go. So that's now secured our like water scene. And there's your card so far. All right, now we want to do some stamping with some otters. So you need to decide which way up this is going to be. Because I want to stamp my otter around there, I think that might be the better way to do it because that's got too much dark. So I'm going to put an otter on there, and then on these big circles I'm going to put otters. Now with this, the circles are smaller. You got a large one, 2 medium ones, and 3 small ones when you use that die. And again, I'm going to bring in some scrap paper to stamp on because I'm going to overlap. So my original card, I did the words in white, and then I used the Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp the otters. This time around, I'm going to do everything in black embossing powder, so it'll stand out more, because I just thought that looked a bit light, and the words didn't pop as well as I wanted. So I'm going to stamp everything with Versamark, and then put the black powder on top. Now, if you don't have one, an embossing buddy is a good thing to have because it just takes the static off of what you're stamping, and then the powder goes where you want it to go, and you don't have any stray bits, because there's nothing worse than doing something that you're going to emboss and have all these little stray bits. The white ones aren't so bad, but black would be noticeable. So I've got my otters. Got my little swimming otter. He's going to go on this section here. And I want him to go roughly about there. So I'm going to ink him up. I'm inking him up with the Versamark. And it's just a sticky one. So if you turn it and hold it at an angle, you can see the shiny. And if you see the shiny, you know he's inked up. You don't want to push too hard because you don't want to get splotches where you don't want them to be, because when you put the powder on, it's going to stick. So I'm just going to put him right about there. Straight down, bit of pressure, straight up. And then I want my powder on him. Now you do have a little time before it dries, so you could leave it a bit longer. But I want to make sure I get my powder on my otter. So just dump the powder over the top. Give it a tap. So there we go. So that's the powder. Now I have to go heat this up, which I'll do off screen because it's just going to be too loud. I like to give it a bit of a tap to get any stray bits. So I'll set him aside for now, and I'll do my other ones. So I want the words, "You are utterly awesome," going in this one of the small ones. So I think I might put it in this one because it's not as dark. And again, I'll move these things over so you can see. I'm doing the words in Versamark. Just check that it's wet because it's not see-through, because these are the red rubber cling stamps. You can't actually see where you're pressing, so if you get it wrong, you can't fix it. And things small like this, I have a little clip to hold it, and then I can put the powder on it. So there we go, you're utterly awesome. Now I always have a little brush with me when I'm doing embossing powder, because as you can see, the top edge has got a little bit that went where I didn't want it to go, and if I don't take that off, it's going to heat it up. Okay, so I'm also going to do the other ones. And then I'll heat them all up. So I'll set that guy aside. And I'll do the other ones. Where's my otters? So I want as much water to be seen. So I'm going to use the big one for this otter. And I'm going to place them that way, I think. Because that kind of looks like the way the water's going. And so I'm going to put him up about halfway so you can see as much of that water going in the dot as possible. And again, we'll clip them and heat them. You can't see, but I can see where the shiny part is. That's why I know where I can put the clip. There we go. So he looks good. Maybe a little bit more on that edge. Don't worry about putting too much powder on, because what isn't sticky will just come off. So there, got him. And one last otter. The ones with his hands. So this one, you can't possibly get the whole otter on there because it's too small. So you don't need to ink the whole otter, just ink up the top part. And then again, just figure out where you want him to go. And just eyeball it so you have most of him in there. Nice pressure. And I can see right where his belly is, so I can put that right there. And then so you can even just go like that. So I just scooped it up. So, different ways you can put your powder on. There we go. Okay, again, I've got a couple spots there. I will use my brush to get rid of them. So I will go away and heat emboss this and come back and we'll put the card together. But I'll do that off screen because it's very noisy. Okay, so there we go. Nice shiny otter. I think that looks much better than my original one. And then we've got these guys all heat embossed. And while I had the video on pause, I went away and I cleaned it. Just simply rinse it under your sink, some cold water, and it washes away because it's water-based ink. So that's, if you haven't tried that before, it's a great thing to do with your embossing folders. So let's bring our card back in here. And I can now stick that on. I'm just going to go with my tear and tape, which I'm almost out of. I'll have to get some more. Now, because this is just on the one side, not really holding anything down, I'm just going to do strips on either side of it. And if you don't have nails like I do, and you're having trouble getting your tear and tape up, make sure you just give it a nice rub, and just something pointy, like the edge of your paper snips, will help you get this side going. So instead of trying to peel it up from the edge, you just simply rub back and forth, and it just goes under the strip. Don't stab it, just let it gently go back and forth, okay? So this should give me, the way I cut it, I want it to go right up to the edge on the inside, but then have a border around. So the top and the bottom, I'm trying to make sure they go right up to the edge. So I'm trying to make it line up with the vellum, the top and the bottom, and cover up the cardstock right there on that edge. But then it gives me an edge around the side there. And once you're happy with it, just peel off the edges. There we go. Now it's the placement. So now we're going to place everything where we want it to be. And I like to place it where it covers up a lot of the white. This otter looks like he's jumping up from below to say hello, so I'm going to put him maybe down there. And he looks like he's coming out the side. And then we can have the Otterly Awesome up there. And then these little bits wherever. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you place something on vellum, especially if you're going to see the back of it, think about what you're going to see on the other side. So when you're sticking it down, like these I did with dimensionals, I placed them in the dark area so it's not that noticeable. If I put them in the white area, when you open it, you would definitely see them. So when you're placing things down, keep that in mind. So like this one here, I think I'll put them over there. So I could put maybe a little dimensional there, or I could even do a glue dot if I don't want them to stick up that high, just in that spot there. And then I can put something on that side as well. So keeping that in mind, I will do just as I said. So this guy is going to come, and I want something in that spot there. So if the dimensional is too big, you could cut them down, but that looks fine. And then I'm going to use, don't know if you've ever done it before, but use the edges. When you get to the edge of your dimensionals, use all the edges. That's the nice thing with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. It goes all the way to the edge. So if that's going to be there, then I basically want a dimensional right about that side. So instead of placing it on the back of the piece, I put it where I want it to go, so I know it's going to be covered up. And so now I will just place him right about there. So now when you turn it over, there is a dimensional there, but because of the color, you don't really see it. It's not that noticeable. Okay, so now this guy down here, I'm mainly just going to have him on this side, and I think I'm going to just stick him straight down. My previous card, I put everything up on dimensionals, but I think this one I'm going to do it different. So I'm going to stick him down, and I'm actually going to get my glue out and do about half of him. Hopefully the glue's going to, oh, there we go. So this is just gluing straight to the cardstock. So I can use glue, and I'm just going to put him sticking down a bit there. So nothing's actually stuck. Oops, can't see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. So I put glue on one half of this guy and just stuck him down there because you're not going to see the other side. So I did him flat. Didn't realize I was doing that off screen. So sorry about that. And then the words, utterly awesome. So it looks like I can put dimensional maybe right there. Let's see, about there. And then I'll put one right about there. And these are the mini dimensionals, so I could cut down my bigger dimensionals. And so we'll just get him placed right. And there's no right or wrong way of doing that, just put them wherever you want. So now I've got dots to put in. So I was just thinking about maybe popping one there and then just place them wherever you think you want them to go. It also depends on how your other part came out. This one here, I put that in this spot because I had a smudge of ink. So it can help to hide things as well. So this one would be right over the white so you'd be able to see it. So I think with that, I'm going to use a glue dot. And it will be as noticeable on the white. So we'll get a glue dot out here. And I'm just wondering if I should put the dark, I think I'll put the dark one there. Press down on your glue dots and then it peels it up. And I'm just going to put the dark one there. And so on the back, there's just a little bit of notice, but not too bad. And then, where'd my other one go? There it is. So that one, pop there with a little dimensional. Thinking I need to put some over here. That's the trouble, is when you're doing the card, deciding what to put where is the hard part. Yeah, I think that almost looks like the lines are connected, so I'm going to put one there. And because it's on the paper, I don't have to worry about the back of it. So this guy, I'm going to actually put it so it almost looks like the little dark parts are matching up. So see how that darkness goes? So that's there. And this guy here, I will just put a full size under that because again I'm putting it right on the front. And then I just need to bling it up. Put that just, there we go. So it sort of kind of looks like there's bubbles. And now for the bling. I'm using the Iridescent Rhinestone Basic Jewels. This is a new product from the latest catalog. Comes in 3 sizes. But even though these are clear, they pick up whatever color you have going on in the background. So I think I'll pop a big guy there. And maybe a little one there. Try to make them look like bubbles. And yep, I think that's good. So when you do your bling, usually it's best to do it in odd numbers because that's kind of nature's way. Everything's in 3s, 5s, 7s. So there we go. That's done. So there's the 2 made with Saleabration products. The Otter, the Awesome Otters is a free stamp set you can get for spending a certain amount in the country you're at. Here in New Zealand, it's $110 spent. You can get that. And for $110, you can also get the DSP. So if you had an order here in New Zealand for over $220, you could get both those free products. And you would just need some ink and cardstock embossing powder. But as you can see, I actually think it looks much better with the black embossing powder. It makes it stand out more. But I'd love to know which one you prefer. So put some comments down and let me know what you like. Give me a thumbs up, as well as make sure you subscribe. And don't forget to look below for links to the other participants for the Global Monthly Video Hop. They're from all over the world. So you'll get to see lots of different ideas and designs, and hopefully it will encourage you to get creative. If you want any of the products, talk to your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you're in New Zealand and don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. You can go to my site, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, as well as I do have a blog. Sometimes I don't blog the products I'm showing, but I might have other ones that I'm not doing videos on that I will have in the blog. So it's a good place to go to get more ideas. So thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your day. Bye.